Get started. We're up to in the Mishnah Berurah here, Pei Tes Hey, which is 89.5. We're talking about what you're allowed to do before davening in the morning. So the last thing we were talking about was eating before davening, what you're allowed to eat, what not to eat, and we came out that you're allowed to drink water, and you're allowed to have coffee and with sugar, and some say and many say with sugar and milk also. And then if you're sick, that's another story. And we had an interesting halacha if you can't, you're not going to make it through davening. The Be'er Halacha says the best thing to do, right? Meaning you're going to be starving by the end of davening, you won't be able to focus at all. You should daven in your house, then you should eat, and then you should go to the shul to listen to Kaddish and Kedusha. So you could say Amen. That's what we said.
Okay.
So let's go further. I'll read in Hebrew and translate. Now, what if you started eating before Alos HaShachar? The technical time you could start.
I asked you, you're allowed to take medicine.
You're allowed to take, you can take, yeah. The times that we were talking about is when you get up after Alos HaShachar, meaning you get up after dawn, because then it's the time when you can really start praying technically, after dawn, which is the morning. Now, what if you started eating before that?
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Nobody ever asked you.
Okay.
You got up in the middle of the night, like I do.
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to pray? Like say a Shema or stuff like that.
You could say whatever you want. You could pray whatever you want. Now, if you only fulfill the mitzvah if you say like Shema in the right time, or whatever, in the correct time.
Say it.
Hey, you could say whatever you want.
You're allowed to say any prayer you want, whatever you want.
Yeah, pretty much. You could. I'm not Shemona Esrei. That has to be at the right times. But you can always daven to Hashem. There's always a mitzvah to pray to Hashem, no matter what.
You can always pray to Hashem.
Always pray to Hashem, of course.
Yeah,
just not in the bathroom or at a dirty place. But yeah. Okay. If you start to eat, let's say you start to eat before Alos HaShachar. So before we're talking about eating after dawn, let's say you start eating before dawn. So do you have to stop? Let's say you get up really, really early. You live in Covered Bridge and it's the summer, it's the winter time. Dawn isn't until 6. You get up at 4:30 and it's not dawn yet, so you can start eating. You start eating your meal. What happens when dawn comes? Do you have to stop eating? Because now it's the time to pray. Right? In the middle of your toast, you have to stop eating your toast?
Are you allowed to do that? Eat your meal at 4:30?
That's what we're going to talk about. So the Shulchan Aruch says, tzarich lahafsik, you have to stop eating. And then it says, v'yesh omrim she'enu tzarich lahafsik. However, some say you don't have to stop eating. So there's two opinions. One opinion is you got to stop. One opinion is you don't have to stop. So let's see what the Mishnah Berurah has to say in how we hold practically. So he's actually talking about where you started eating even a half hour before dawn. Let's say dawn is at 6 a.m. Right? That's not sunrise. That's when the first streak of sun starts coming out, and you're allowed to eat a half hour before dawn. So let's say 5:30. Right? You're not allowed to eat a half hour close to dawn. We're talking about a meal. Yeah.
Let me ask something. The day fast. How
Start at dawn.
Huh?
Start at dawn.
Oh, it started dawn.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So here you're allowed to eat a meal. We're talking about washing and stuff. That you're allowed to start before dawn. Now let's say you're still eating and it comes to dawn. Okay, so he's talking about you're eating a fixed meal. Derech keva means you're like sitting down for a meal. But if you and how much is a meal? A meal is like you're eating more than an egg's volume. That's what's considered. But if you want to have like a raisin or something or a grape within a half hour of dawn, that you're allowed to do. Right? If it's after dawn, let's say you want to have one grape. When are you allowed to eat one grape? Within a half hour of dawn, right until dawn, you could eat a grape. After dawn, can't eat a grape anymore because you got to pray first. Unless, of course, you're hungry or not feeling well. Now, to sit down and have an actual meal, or have like a good amount of food, when is that allowed? That's only allowed a half hour before dawn, but you can't do it a half hour within dawn. Now, what happens? Now we're going to talk about.
Wait a second. I don't understand that because I hold by the fast on a day fast.
Mm-hmm.
So say the fast starts 4:20. So I finish eating, say 4:15. I'm having a meal.
Oh, so maybe you can't do that.
How come you can't do it?
According,
we heard from Rabbi Leiter, personally, I got to ask him, that up until the time.
It says afilu haya beheter the betoch chatzi shah within the half hour of dawn. Asur lahaskal is forbidden to begin eating. Ukumoshe kasav haramah b'simatafrishon beis gabi lulav, like it says over there. V'hu adin lagabi kriyish madaraisa. V'dafka imhu ochel yosem merkabeh. It's only prohibited to start eating when you're going to eat more than an egg's volume. Dahave derech. To have a derech keva, because it's like a set meal. O lishtos b'gashir, or to have a lot to drink. Avo pachos mizeh, but less than this, mutar adam shachar. But less than this, it's allowed until dawn. So I mean, he's saying that you're not allowed to sit down to have like a set meal, which is more than an egg's volume within a half hour of dawn. That's what he says here. You can tell them it is in Mishnah Berurah.
I'm going to discuss this with them.
Yeah, 89. You want to write it down?
I've been all the time then. I'm not following.
You want to write it down? You can tell them where it is. 89:27. 89:27. Okay. So now, what if let's say you started before a half hour of dawn? Everyone holds you're allowed that. You sit down. You could wash. You could have a steak.
So you're saying that a half hour before dawn, as long as you start, the whole thing, the key is start.
Right.
Meaning that if you start like 31 minutes before dawn, you can eat gezit hey until those 31 minutes are up.
Maybe you can even eat longer than that. That's what we're talking about now.
Okay.
If you're and let's say it gets to dawn, that's what we're talking. For sure, you could eat until those 30 minutes. Right. Now, when we get to dawn, maybe you can even continue eating as long as you feel like, because you started already. The difference here is earlier we were talking about when you start when it's daytime already, when you shouldn't have started. But now, what if you start way before dawn? Can you continue even after dawn? So that's two opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. The first opinion is you have to stop. The second opinion is you could keep going.
But you start a half hour before dawn. It's not at dawn.
No, but you're still eating.
The fast starts at dawn.
I'm not talking about a fast day. I'm talking about a regular day.
I want to talk about fast day because that's important for me. Just fast day.
Oh, fast day, yeah. You could for sure. You could continue eating into the half hour before dawn, for sure. I'm talking about on a regular day. Yeah. You're not allowed to eat before davening. But if you start before, a half hour before dawn, can you continue eating until after dawn? Are you allowed to do that? So that's two opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. So the first opinion...
Let me ask you this. When there's two opinions, which one do you listen to?
So it depends. And the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us, when there's two opinions in the Shulchan Aruch, in general, we go after the first opinion brought, which is you have to stop.
The oldest opinion.
Oh, you go after the harder one.
Oh, not always. It depends. It always depends on the situation. There are certain rules. In general, the Shulchan Aruch, you go with the first opinion. Sometimes if it's a Torah law, we're more stringent, but a rabbinic law will be more lenient. So it all depends what it is. We'll see what we hold here. So the first opinion we said in the Shulchan Aruch says once the dawn comes, once the first rays of sunlight come out, you got to stop. So he says, interesting that everybody holds. We've been talking about shachars. What about mincha, right? So you're officially not supposed to have a meal in certain situations before mincha, right? Let's say you can start davening. Mincha at 1:30, let's say. That's the earliest time you could daven mincha. Let's say you started a meal at noon, right? Everyone holds you can continue eating. No one says you have to stop your meal just to daven mincha. You're allowed to keep eating. But shacharis, there's an opinion that says you have to stop. What's the difference? So you're right. So the reason is because the Gemara attaches a verse to not eating before shacharis called lo sochel al dam. Right? We mentioned the Torah says you're not allowed to eat blood. So the Gemara uses that verse of not allowed to eat blood as a hint to the fact that you're not allowed to eat before davening. So since the Gemara quotes a verse about the law of not eating before davening in the morning, it means that it's a more serious prohibition to eat before davening in the morning than it is to eat before davening at mincha. So while everybody holds if you started a meal in the morning, you can continue eating in the afternoon, you don't got to stop. By shacharis is an opinion that says you have to stop when dawn comes. Now, Ubashem HaZohar, this is interesting. Kasu Achronim, Shafilu Kam Bechatzas Halayla Asr Litom Kodim Sheispal. Very interesting. This is, you know what the Zohar says? The Zohar says if you get up in the middle of the night after midnight, you're not allowed to eat. The Zohar says that.
Even a couple of grapes?
Let's see. We'll see. The Zohar seems to say that, but there's going to be other opinions. What the Mishnah Berurah does very often is he quotes a lot of opinions and he'll tell us who we go like. But that's the opinion. The Zohar, it's a Kabbalah, right? This is a very important Kabbalistic book. Because of a Pri Megadim, the Davka Kishaya Yashin, the Pri Megadim writes that's only if you were sleeping and woke up. It doesn't mean if you're up the whole night, you don't got to stop eating. You don't have to stop eating at midnight. But he says that maybe drinking is allowed. He says, however, really, according to the letter of the law, you're allowed, even if you were sleeping and you wake up at 2 a.m. and you want to eat, you're allowed to eat and drink. But however, he says that it's proper to be strict about this if you can. Because of B'Shem Siddur HaRizal, Sheharam Chaim Vital Atzmak Shechalash Libo Achal Shasa Eza Davar Lechazik Gufo. And he writes that even Rav Chaim Vital, who was a great Kabbalist, who you'd think would go after the Zohar to the letter of the law, even he, if he was feeling weak and he got up in the middle of the night, he would eat and drink. And the Chaya Adam says that if you get up and you're weak and you want to learn, then of course you should eat so that you could learn. Now, what's interesting is that Rav Chaim Vital was only eating because he didn't feel like to have strength, but he says it's not such a great idea if you get up past midnight to just eat because you feel like this is lamalas tavaso, to fulfill you, to just get pleasure. Right? You just want to have chips. So that you really shouldn't do if you get up past midnight. So that's interesting halacha, which I was unaware of. Now that was the opinion that you have to stop. Now there was another opinion that said that if you start eating a half hour before Amr Shachar, or even, one second, it's even right before, I think. Okay, we'll see, I'm not sure, one second. That you have to stop eating when you get to dawn. Right. So there's another opinion that even if you started eating when you weren't supposed to, you don't have to stop. Because now he says that according to the opinion that says you don't have to stop, you do have to stop and say Shema, because that's a Torah requirement, right? Davening Shemona Esrei is only a rabbinic requirement, but saying Shema is a Torah requirement. So, Murray, you asked earlier, how do we paskin? What's the halacha? The halacha is that you have to stop. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says at the end. That even if you start eating when it's totally fine, 4 a.m, right, way before dawn. Once dawn hits, you got to stop eating. Okay, so that's all the halachas about eating before davening. Now, what about learning Torah before davening? Are you allowed to do that? Right? You think for sure you're allowed to daven, allowed to learn before davening. It's such an important thing. So this is afilu lilmod aser mishiyagiya zman tefila. It says once it gets the time to daven, you shouldn't learn. We're going to qualify this. However, the ikla mechash dilma mitrid begirsa v'yavers man kriyishma utfila of mishirago lelech lebeis haKnesses mutter. He says that's only for a person that doesn't daven in shul, right? If you daven in your house for whatever reason and you don't have a minyan, once it gets the time to start davening, you shouldn't learn, because we're going to think you're going to get so engrossed in your learning, right? You see how the guys in the kollel learn; they get very into it. They'll forget to daven. But if you have a fixed minyan you go to, every morning you go at 7:10 to this minyan, then we're not going to worry that you're going to forget to daven because you got a set place to go. It's only when you are learning by yourself and not going to a minyan that you have to worry about this. Let's say you're teaching others. However, he says there's an exception. Even when you're not going to shul, if you're teaching a class and there's a lot of people coming to learn, then you don't have to stop learning. Because even though there's this, we're worried that maybe you'll forget to stop learning and you won't daven, but it's so important to teach Torah to others. It says it's a chus, a gadol. It's very, very important. So we don't want to ever be mevatel to cancel a Torah class. So even if you're not going to a minyan, you're allowed to keep learning, and you should keep learning with that class. Okay, let's do a Mishnah Berurah. This is a vav. Lilmod aser rotzalomar lahaskil lilmod avlim kfar hiskal afilu achar shegiz zman shuveinu paisik imisha lo shoz achar lispal zman tefila. This is interesting. This is only talking about when you started davening, when you started learning. This is only to start learning. You're not allowed to start learning when the time for davening comes. But if you started, you don't have to stop. Right? So it's interesting. You have this halacha that you don't want to start learning because you might forget to daven, but it's not such a strict halacha in the sense that if you actually already started learning, you can keep learning and you don't have to worry about it. So he brings a debate that when he says that if you started, you don't have to stop. That could be you don't have to stop just for davening, but for Shema, since again Shema is a Torah law to say Shema, then you would have to stop for. How do we sha'ala amar shachar? Avokodem lezem butter afil haschil. Ukashehischil mamela shaveno paisik im lo shara shavar zman v'yishmakil mechatchila afilu achar she'ala amar shachar goes mashal yiyah zban samach laneit shara dispal b'lechatchila. This is interesting. He says, now what are we talking about? You shouldn't start learning when the time comes. That's talking about after dawn. But before dawn, of course you could start learning because it's not the time to daven yet. So if you started learning before dawn, you don't have to stop when dawn comes. And he says there are even opinions that are more lenient because even though technically you could daven at dawn. Do you remember when we said the best time to daven is? The optimal time to daven shacharis? It's sunrise, which is, usually like an hour or so, more than an hour. Right, Vasikin, the best time to daven. So since that's the optimal time of davening, you could actually, according to these opinions, start learning after dawn before sunrise, before Vasikin, because that's the optimal time of davening. Okay, fine. Mitra begirsayim b'chayadam shekas of dafili yesh lo shir kavua mashalom midalek lamechash kol kach filachi aser chemishu bedarach odar b'yishiv afilu kaitz. I'm just going to skim this and then summarize it. Mikol makom kivan she'aser lo makom shizbal mutav shizbal tekef kedei shelo yizbatam milimudo was one azed over from dracham al pi'enu torah bedarach v'hayim arosh yam mikol makom kivan she'nimshach v'zeh she'ovrim zman kriyishma l'pam gam v'zeh zman. One second. Oh, he writes that let's say אפילו יש לו שיר קבוע, מה שלא מדלג. He's saying in a place, it sounds like where they are, if you have a friend, you appoint a friend to tell you that, make sure you wake me up before davening so that I don't forget to daven, then you're allowed to learn. Okay, that's about learning. Now, you're allowed to get a haircut before davening. Remember, we were talking about doing work before you daven. What are you allowed to do? You're allowed to get a haircut, and you can go to the bathhouse close to shacharis, because the rabbis didn't make an injunction there that you can't do it. It was only before mincha, right in the afternoon, that before mincha you're not allowed to do these things because you might forget to daven. But shacharis, since most people don't go to the bathhouse or get a haircut before davening, then it's allowed.
I thought you can't bathe before shacharis.
Right. So the Mishnah Berurah is going to clue us in right here. He says, Dafka samach l'shacharis. When is this allowed? It means hainu kodem sha'alom shachar. It means before dawn. All these things are allowed before dawn. You can go to the bathhouse. You can get a haircut before dawn. Right? If you find a barber open that early. But once dawn happens, you're not allowed to do this. So you're not allowed to go to the bathhouse, and you're not allowed to go get a haircut before after dawn. Because of a prima gadam to din ubur.
You're not allowed to take a haircut after dawn?
Right, before davening.
Oh, before davening.
Right. Now we're going to talk about shaving. Can you shave before davening? Get to that in a second. The din ubur to yusuda aser samach l'shachos k'mo samach l'mincha. Bain la'el. V'likno sarche seuda ba'er Shabbos kodem tefillah shari. But if you want to buy things, you go to the store. He says to buy things that you need for your meal let's say for Shabbos, your Shabbos meal, you want to buy those things before davening, that you're allowed to do. If you're doing a mitzvah. Shehu davar, shirov ha'am nichnasin sham b'yomav v'b'shachar davar shehu matzahu v'lo gazer bo v'osan ha'malachos. Okay, v'osan ha'malachos shederech b'nei adam lahashkim lahem kodem alos ha'shachar yeshem machmirim v'sovrim v'chazi shachar kodem alos ha'shachar aser v'samach l'mencho.
If you daven in your house,
Right.
and as soon as you get up, you're supposed to daven, right?
If you're not going to a minyan, then yeah.
Yeah.
But as long as it's in the proper time.
Yeah.
Right.
The proper time is after dawn.
No, so the proper time, the best time is really after is sunrise or later.
Yeah, if I get up 9 o'clock.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. But you should actually make sure, because the end time for saying Shema is around there, so you gotta make sure you're before that. So
What you say, the end?
the latest time that you can say Shema is around 9 o'clock.
Really?
Or it's later now. But it's a little later. Second.
It's 9:07 or 8.
And something like that.
So if you start davening after, and you shouldn't say Shema then.
If you what?
If you start davening 9:30, like say you get up 9:30, so
Right.
so you shouldn't say Shema.
You should still say it, because you get a mitzvah of reading Torah, because when you read Shema you're reading Torah, but you don't get a mitzvah of getting Shema in the proper time.
Okay.
So you should still say it. Now we
So
said
it's not forbidden.
no, it's not forbidden. You can say Shema whenever you want.
Okay, that I wanted to know. Okay.
Yeah. We were talking about, right. So it sounds like also from the end here that you not only, I know this doesn't happen very much. Not only can't you get a haircut after dawn, but also a half hour before dawn, you really shouldn't get a haircut either. Now what about shaving? We're talking about haircuts. Can you shave before davening? You get up, it's 5:36 and it's already past dawn. You're allowed to shave. So I have written here that the Halicha Shleiman Beizayin or Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says you shouldn't shave before davening. Now, what about? We said you're not allowed to do labors before davening. What about taking out the garbage, making your bed? Is that considered a labor? So I have written here that Shlomo Zalman says that's allowed. You're allowed to put the laundry into the machine. You can make your bed, and you can take out the trash. Like anything that's like very easy, not a real labor, that you could do. And then, right, again, we spoke about showers last week, that there are different opinions about that, if you could shower before davening. And that's it for today, I guess. And then next week, we're almost done. We almost did a whole siman in the Shulchan Aruch. And next week, all we have to learn about is if you're going on a trip, right, and you're leaving on a trip before dawn or after dawn, when's the best time to daven, right? Let's say you have to go to the city and you have to catch the bus and you can't get to a minyan. When's the best time to daven? So we'll talk about that next week, God willing.